Hey everybody, it's me, Hugh. It's Liquid Lunch, and it's a November day, and it feels like November, and so much for climate change. Daryl is my co-host today.
I'm shocked already. You're playing Donald Trump
because you're buying the climate change.
Of course,
myth.
it's climate change. Of course, what is this?
That's a whole other
Just want
topic.
to disconnect from my host for a second.
That's okay. Everything's equal. We can all believe
true.
what we want to believe,
That's true.
or maybe we can't. We've got Peter Salemi joining us here.
Nice to be here.
Great to have you here. And you're with the British Israel Church of God. And you've been doing a show with us here.
Yep.
You've been running your shows for the last month or so, and it's been good.
That's been awesome.
And I just wanted to actually meet you in person, and we can have a conversation. Actually, we're waiting for Yaz to get here, and then we'll really get into the eschatology stuff like that.
It's nice meeting you in person. We've been conversing
Well, I haven't actually. I know you've been with Dee, but
by email. I mean, technology's great and everything, but nothing beats the one-on-one conversation, face-to-face.
I know, because even like and people, well, even you get these flame wars, right? And this whole thing, like the devolution of discourse, right, on the internet, where people are like swearing at other people and stuff like that. I sense, I feel some exuberance entering the space. I don't know if that's.
But I'm old school. I'm old school like that. I prefer. Technology's great and everything, but I prefer one-on-one.
Yeah.
I come from an Italian background, so Italians like to interact with people. Talk till our hands get tired.
Oh yeah. Okay, Yaz is here. Yaz, we were expecting you, so you can, whenever you're ready, you come on over on the couch and join our conversation.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
That's Peter Salemi.
Nice to meet you.
He's
Hi.
our guest. That's Daryl. He's our other
Hi.
co-host. There's your mic. Turn it on. Sit down, and let's get into this.
Well, I'm glad to be here because I was looking at your website yesterday. Is this on?
Yeah, it's on. Yeah,
It is.
just keep talking.
Okay. And I'm interested in what you had to say about all the biblical prophecies of what's going on right now.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
And,
get into that.
All right.
Right?
Was watching Age of Deceit last night, so it's very
That's
good.
the one I mentioned to them about Face Like the Sun, God's Shemura.
Well, what's going on with technology in your opinion, and are we being manipulated by this technology? Because I'm just seeing more and more that, it is kind of imprinting itself on us, and it's so like part of our life now that we're just like living in the internet and the phones and the iPads and everything. So what's your opinion of that?
Well, the book of Daniel in the 12th chapter said that knowledge would increase, and so would travel. So this explosion of technology that we see in the 20th century and the 21st century it was predicted to happen. But the media, I think the media has a lot of influence over people. Especially, you hear a lot about fake news today with CNN and all that. They have their spin. What I like about the internet is that it gives a chance for different views about what's going on with Donald Trump and everything. So you see a conflict between two sides, really, when you see what's happening with the left and the right, as everybody calls it. But it's definitely has a heavy influence on the population. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But are these, okay, Peter, I'm just going to ask you, because eschatology, I just found out what that word meant recently, but it means like a discussion around the end times, right?
Okay.
So are we in the end times?
Absolutely. See, in the Bible, it talks about the time of the end. And it says that at the time of the end, there would be certain nations that would have crucial roles in the time of the end, and that certain nations would develop into great nations in the time of the end. The Bible focuses on the people called Israel. The Bible's Israel's book. It's about Israel. It's for Israel. The problem is, where is Israel?
Yeah.
A lot of people think that Israel is just the Jews. But when you look at biblical history, the Jews are just one tribe. There's what they call the lost 10 tribes of Israel. And what we've done, we went into deep study, and you look at the history of the churches of God, they believe that the lost 10 tribes of Israel are the modern-day peoples of the United States, Britain, Scandinavia. And when you trace these peoples back, you can trace them back to the house of Israel. You see, in the time of the kingdom of Solomon, after he died, the kingdom split in two.
Yeah.
And the northern kingdom got taken away, and they became, lost.
Yeah.
But what really happened was the enemies of Israel called them by different names. They didn't call them Hebrews. They didn't call them Israelites. They called them after their king Omri. There was King Omri of Israel, and he had a splendid reign, and he was very well known. And they called them the Kimbric peoples. And these Kimbric peoples were called by the Greeks the Celts. So the Celtic tribes, you can trace them from the Black and the Caspian Sea in southern Europe, and they migrated up into northern Europe and Scandinavia.
Well, I heard, that, for example, Denmark
Yeah.
is named after the tribe of Dan,
Actually,
right?
absolutely. It even says it in the Encyclopedia Britannica, 11th edition. It actually says that.
Yeah.
That Denmark, we call it Denmark, but they call it Danmark, the Danes, the tribe of Dan. And when you look in the Bible, you see that Dan actually puts his name on cities, towns, and they do the same thing in Denmark and Ireland. Ireland is also the tribe of Dan as well. So when you understand where these peoples are, and it says that these blessings would come upon them in the time of the end, and we have the blessings that God promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He said that Jacob would become a great company, a commonwealth of many nations, and a great single powerful nation.
So who's Jacob?
Jacob is the patriarch of Israel, but his promises that God gave him,
Yeah.
he got passed on to the two tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh. It was you've heard of Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat, remember that play?
Yeah.
Joseph had two sons,
Yeah.
Ephraim and Manasseh, and the blessings went on to them.
So I'm okay. But today, who's Jacob? Like, who's the?
Britain and America.
Okay, all right. And Daryl, weigh in here anytime.
Well, I'm just. Do you not think there's a simplification going on?
There's nothing complicated about it, really.
Because it's sometimes there's sort of revisionist history where you look at what's happening today and you trace it back quite simply to a certain thing in the Bible. Where, for instance, would you place an equally ancient text, let's say Hindu text, because Hinduism and Judaism are sort of similarly the most, the oldest existing religions. Do you think like other texts have sort of a validity that's equal to the Jewish Bible, or you don't see it that way?
I don't see it that way because God he said he only works with one people, Israel, and that he inspires his prophets of Israel. So the inspired word of God, the Bible claims for itself, is only the biblical text. But there are some truths in like Hinduism, because the Israelites, when they got taken away, some of them dwelt in India. And you can actually trace Buddha from... Buddha was actually the father of one of the prophets of Israel.
Really?
And yeah, a lot of his teachings are from Buddha.
Which prophet?
Ezekiel.
Really?
Yeah, his father was Buddha.
I didn't know.
And he was a priest. Buddha was a priest. Ezekiel's father was a priest. His name was Buddha. And a lot of his teachings went into...
is that in the Bible? That his father was Buddha?
Well,
no, it's not in the Bible.
It's not in the Bible, but you trace the name and the history.
Yeah.
And you can put it together.
Is amazing
Oh, thank
because who knows how much time we have left on this earth, right? And
We don't. Christ says
you
no
know.
man knows the day or the hour. Like, I just did a video recently. Some guy predicted the end of the world was going to come September 23rd.
Yeah.
It didn't happen, came and went. Same with the Mayan prophecies, the year 2000,
Yeah, we've heard so many
2012.
of these, right?
I mean, come on. And people still fall for it. I just don't understand.
But it's gonna, boy, where do we go on this? So, but it does seem, when when I look at the world, and I've been dealing with it my whole life, trying to figure out, where are we going? with nuclear energy, with the atomic bomb. Like,
Right.
to me, it's a miracle we're still here 60, 70 years after the atomic bomb was still here.
Right.
But we have environmental issues. We have, see, Daryl, I said environmental
Very
issues.
good, very good.
We got overpopulation issues. We have the threat, even any moment there could be a nuclear war with
Yeah.
North Korea and stuff like that.
And it's interesting with the atomic bomb, the invention of it. Christ said that if God Almighty didn't intervene, that all of humankind would be obliterated.
Yeah.
That could not have happened until the invention of the nuclear age, the nuclear bomb.
Okay, Peter, I just got a question in my mind. I know I brought up the Mandela effect earlier. We're not going to go there. You disproved it with your biblical knowledge before we came on. But what about the flat Earth?
What about it?
Is it a flat Earth or is it a round Earth?
It's round Earth. The
What a-
Hebrews knew that the Earth was round.
But what's the firmament? I've always had trouble with that. The firmament.
Apparently, according to the creationists, that firmament above the heavens
Yeah.
was like a vapor canopy
Yeah,
that was around the Earth at the time,
yeah.
and so apparently that's what it was.
Okay,
So,
right.
and it's hard to understand with the King James language,
yeah.
but apparently that's basically what it was.
Okay, I want to get into the King James then, because the King James, they talk about the Bible codes,
Uh-huh.
and that the King James can be, and now we have all these new Bible versions, right?
Right.
Like, and people are saying that they don't have the same, and we hear about these changes in recent versions of the Bible where they're changing substantive things, like, for example, where I think they talk about Christ being the cornerstone. Now he's the capstone, right?
Okay.
Like, have you heard about that one?
I didn't hear about that one, but I understand what
But
you're
stuff
getting at.
like that.
Okay, yeah, exactly. And in the movie Age of Deceit, it talks about this fallen stone, the Philosopher's Stone. Okay, so
Isn't that Harry Potter?
what is this Philosopher's Stone that these secret societies and the Masons and everyone are considering to be is the fallen angels, or what is this this Philosopher's Stone that they're talking about all the time? And why does it talk about Jesus being the cornerstone in the Bible? That trips me out, because it's like the top of the pyramid, and they're
That's a capstone.
Are they
not the
talking-
cornerstone. The cornerstone's the bottom of the pyramid. The capstone's the top of the pyramid.
okay, the capstone. So are they calling him the
Now
capstone?
they changed it from cornerstone to capstone.
In which text? In which version?
Hi, we're on the air.
Is it not in the King James version? In the new versions,
No,
they're
it's
changing
one of the
it.
new versions. They're calling it the capstone.
Well, there you go. That's how Satan is infiltrating everything and creating division and screwing up our minds. Listen, people, you just stick to one text and that's it. Whatever the Hebrew translation is, you follow that and nothing else. Don't look at any of the other translations, because the Bible says do not add or remove anything. So your book of Anza, Mormons, let me tell you something. That is coming from the Illuminati, and all those different sects are created by the Illuminati to create division amongst the church, so that we are divided, so that we don't know what to believe, and so that we're not following the correct version. And that is going to be revealed in due time. Just like the Catholic Church will be brought down, and all you pedophiles out there will be exposed, so you will burn in hell where you deserve. And let's just talk to this man right here, because this
Peter's
man
having
right
fun.
here, okay, he doesn't look like a crazy person, right?
No, I'm
He's,
not crazy.
what did you do before you became this master of scholarly wisdom?
What did I do before?
Yes.
Well, just like anybody else, went to school, worked various jobs, construction, you name it.
What did you take at school? Just curious.
That's just, general stuff,
Oh, okay.
business, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I worked construction, but at the same time, I was always studying
Yeah.
the Bible. You asked me about how I got into it.
Yeah, like
in the
how did
beginning.
you, because you were raised Catholic, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
And,
I was a Catholic, and at 12 years old, I remember my parents went out and I had the house to myself, and I was flicking around the stations, and I saw on Global, I can't believe I remember this, on Global, a man named Herbert Armstrong. I don't know if you're familiar with the World Tomorrow program.
Absolutely.
Oh, you
sure,
do?
Sure
Okay.
am, yeah.
Okay.
In fact, because he's the same, he talks about the lost tribes.
Yeah.
Right?
We come from that tradition,
Yeah.
those churches of God. And
Right.
so he was on, and he said one time, he said, not eating meat on Friday
Yeah.
is not in the Bible. Now that took me by surprise, because I'm a Catholic. Here I am, a Catholic,
Yeah, exactly.
and here I am, a Catholic, and every Friday, I remember my mom always made fish. We don't eat meat on Friday, because, you know, Jesus died on Friday.
There was always lineups at the fish and chips places,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
On Friday.
In the Croatian tradition, we would only honor that tradition when it was like around Easter. On that Good Friday, you would not eat meat.
Not
But
eat
you
meat.
guys
No, but
did
I
it every
remember in
Friday.
Welland, and Daryl's from Welland too. But on Fridays, the fish and chips places had lineups.
Exactly.
Always, right?
Because of that tradition.
yeah.
So that's not in the Bible?
It's not in the Bible.
So all the time
And-
that I felt guilty for eating meat on Friday, and then I found out you're not supposed to eat meat that day.
And after that, it shocked me, but I just believed it. I
Right.
believe it's one of the seeds that God planted in my mind. But after that, I didn't think much of it. I still did what every other teenager did, you know, go out with your buddies and get stupid, you know, pick up as many girls as you can, stuff like that, you know. But at the same time, I was picking up Plain Truth magazines. I was reading the Bible occasionally. But then when I got around 19, 20,
Yeah.
I was dating who's my wife now, I was dating her steadily.
Uh-huh.
And during that time, I was kind of influenced, kind of, you know, knocked here, shoved over here, just still into the faith. But then around 20 years old, I really got really serious about it.
Okay.
And I started into deep study
Yeah.
in the
Wonderful.
Bible.
Like just studying the actual Bible?
Yeah,
or-
like just I got the King James Bible. I got myself a whole bunch of concordances and encyclopedias. I was in the library all the time. My wife was wondering where I was.
Yeah, yeah.
You
wow.
know, and deep in the study, and I came and I was watching Garner Ted Armstrong, who was the son of Herbert Armstrong. He had his own show. I was watching him. I was watching others as well, but they were the typical evangelists, you know, those guys on television that cry. And I mean, I don't understand why people cry on camera. Like even our prime minister, there he is
looks
crying.
Good. It looks good.
Yeah,
It's real
anyways.
touching.
But Ted Armstrong, I came to the realization with all my study that he came closest to the truth. And I joined his church along with my partner, Bill, there was behind the camera. We've been friends since high school, and we went together. And we were practicing our faith. And then in '97, the church split up due to internal problems.
You mean
Ted Armstrong's
Herbert-
church.
Yeah,
W. Armstrong's church?
no, it was the Church of God International.
Okay.
Herbert Armstrong's church was Worldwide Church of God.
Okay.
And so after that, in '99, we kind of drifted apart, and I kind of drifted from the faith a little bit. And in '99, I decided to build a website because back then, remember, there was AOL. People were getting on the internet through AOL.
Yep.
You've got mail. Remember that?
I do.
You
Still,
got mail.
I still get mail.
And-
You got mail.
I get too much mail.
I got mail.
And I created the website that you see now, and I started writing booklets, articles, and now here we are today on your show.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's in a nutshell. That's kind of basically what happened to me. And
So,
now what I see today,
Yeah.
looking at the Bible prophecies, as I said, you can't understand prophecy without that vital key, which is the identity of Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Britain, America. I mean, if the Bible is the Word of God,
Yeah.
why does it list tiny, insignificant nations like tiny little Israel, Syria, Egypt, and ignore the greatest nations that the world has ever seen? Canada, the United States, that invented the television, the radio, the car. How can it ignore these nations? Well, it doesn't. It actually mentions them more times than any other nation in the Bible. And they're called Israel. And It says in the time of the end, these nations would receive their blessings, which they have. We've received these blessings. We're in the time of the end. And now we're seeing the United States and Britain losing their, power. As you can, I mean, the British Empire is no more.
And the American Empire
Is
could be in
shrinking.
trouble.
I mean, let's face
Wow.
it.
It's got some
They can show
problems.
their power all they want.
You know-
The American Empire from within
Yeah.
is rotting, and they're $20 trillion in debt.
Yep.
And this is the time the Bible calls Jacob's trouble. It's called the Great Tribulation that Christ mentions in Matthew 24. And it's the greatest time of trouble that the world will ever see. And that's when the United States and Britain, Canada, Australia, collapses. The nations are going to collapse.
I don't want that to happen.
All-out war. Well,
gonna be in
it
trouble.
doesn't have to happen. But
Does it?
It doesn't have to happen.
Okay,
That's
that's
what I want to ask.
interesting.
I want to ask him this.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Because in Jeremiah, God says that I've pronounced judgments against the nation. But it says, if that nation repents
Yeah.
and returns to me, then all the evil that I've pronounced upon them won't happen.
Like Nineveh, right?
Exactly. There
I
you
just
go.
wish that he would come right now. Like, can you just please, God, like help us avoid all this hell? Like, why do we have to live in this demented
Well-
world where everybody is like
Well-
living in some type of a bubble and they don't understand what they're what we're absorbing on a daily basis? Like all these singers, Beyonce, Rihanna, Jay-Z, we're singing 666 and Murder Jesus and we don't even know it. Like, what the hell is going on here in Hollywood, in the movies? It's like we're just being brainwashed since we popped out of the womb. And it's like, why are we going through this hell? And like,
Well,
you know-
because
you know
God,
what I mean?
God has given man free moral agency. He gave
That's part of.
everybody a choice.
Yeah.
You either follow my way or you have other choices. And people are keeping they're decided to go their own way, and we're seeing the fruits of our doings, as it says. And this is why you see a lot of evil in the world, because you see, God set up the 10 Commandments, and he says you can either keep the 10 Commandments and be blessed and have all the blessings that you want, a successful business, a healthy body, a wonderful family, a happy marriage, or you can go the other way. And people aren't keeping the 10 Commandments, and this is why we see a lot of poverty, a lot of suffering. We are making our own choices. But you see, the gospel, you hear that word a lot, gospel. It's an old Anglo-Saxon word. It means good news. Christ came with the good news that this world is going to be taken over by a super government that Christ is going to run, and he's going to be king over all of the earth, and there's going to be peace, there's going to be prosperity, and people are going to know and practice and learn the ways of God and not their way. Their way is not going to exist anymore. It's going to be the way of peace, of righteousness, and that's the good news, that Christ is going to come again. And it's going to happen very soon. I don't know when, but it will happen soon.
That's what they said back then. Like even even Paul was saying, and Peter, they were saying, get ready because he's coming very soon. So they thought that it was coming at that time because
They
it's
had
like,
to. See, they
know,
had
we-
to think that, because if the church becomes complacent and lazy, if you knew a date, if they said Christ is coming December 31st, 2018, would you be ready? Would you watch? Christ said that, I say to you all, watch. Be ready, always. If you knew a date, you wouldn't be ready. You wouldn't practice your faith. You'd do whatever you want, and then when that date comes, right, then you're ready. And Christ says to be ready always. That's why they thought they were living in the time of the end, and they were, for them. They were living in the time of the end for them.
Right. And actually, that's we're going to have to wrap this up soon. I mean, we could talk forever about
yeah, I
this,
know.
right? This is the biggest topic in the whole world. It's like, but I want to ask, because the temple, you mentioned it, Bruno, destroyed in AD 70, and now, people say in the biblical prophecies that it's really going to hit, the tribulation is going to hit when the new temple is built in Jerusalem. And I just heard there's a lot of talk about, I just heard even this week, somebody's talking about taking down the Al-Aqsa Mosque and rebuilding the third temple there. I mean, is that going to happen, Peter? What do you think?
They could actually build the temple now if they want, because it's not on the Temple Mount. The Temple Mount is actually Fort Antonia that the Romans had,
Yeah.
and beside it was the actual temple. It's called the hill called Ophel,
Yeah.
which is a Jewish national park right now.
Yeah.
They could actually build it now if they want to,
And leave the mosque there.
and leave it intact,
And
because
then-
that's what the Bible calls the court of the Gentiles.
What, the Al-Aqsa Mosque?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the court of
okay.
the Gentiles. The temple could be built. They could start tomorrow if they
Why
want
don't
to.
they?
Because there's a lot of tradition.
Yeah.
The Western Wall.
Yeah.
And
So they want to build it where the mosque is? Is that
yeah,
what
they
want to
think
do?
that's where it is. But, minds are starting to change in
So
Jerusalem.
maybe they could actually build a third temple,
They could.
make peace with the Islamic world, and we could all live happily ever after.
No, that's not going to happen. I have no faith in. I have no faith in men, because human nature is the same; it never changes. If peace broke out tomorrow, war would be the result.
Okay.
Because there's no money in peace. There's money in war.
But maybe we can change the money thing with the cryptocurrencies. Okay, Peter, this has been a great conversation. We're going to have to wrap it up. Actually, I would love to carry this on. We could do
I would
this.
like to carry it on.
Because
I
what's
don't
so
know if
good
I asked
about
him that
this
many questions.
is that what I'm just getting at is that this kind of conversation
This
is
important.
engaging, but maybe as an addition to what you're already doing with the Watchman program, which we should tell people how they can
Right. If I can get a
how
plug
they can
in.
tune in that. Yeah, so please give us where can people check out the show besides here at that channel,
If
possibly.
you can go to our site at britishisrael.ca.
That's British-Israel.
Israel.ca. There's another site called British Israel without the dash.ca, trying to ride our coattails. That's our website, and the links are there. You can go to our YouTube channel and look at our programs. We talk a lot about prophecy,
Yeah.
but we also talk about spiritual things as well, the purpose of human life. We talk about a lot about biblical misconceptions, like I was telling you earlier about heaven and hell,
Yeah.
things like that, the immortal soul. We talk about a lot of things. We make the Bible simple. It's not something that's complicated. And so you can check us out there. We're also on Twitter if you want to follow us on Twitter. All the links are on our website, britishisrael.ca.
Okay, great. I hope we really get a chance to do this again sometime.
Oh, yeah,
because
that'd be
I
great.
think we've
I'd
really
love
only
to.
begun
I
to
got
have
more
this conversation.
questions.
I know you do. Look, I
Way
can't
more
believe you
questions.
have.
This is important.
Yeah.
We need to put the word out there.
All right. Okay, we got lots more coming up. We have some other guests. We got Luis Enrique here. We got Patrick Ryan, and then Dr. Ravi Shankar Paulisetti's coming in later, who's developed this fantastic new wrist thing that's going to change healthcare. So it's awesome. So many great things. Okay, Peter, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a little break. Be back with more right here on thatchannel.com.
Have a good